In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud. Isolated and betrayed by a government we trust.
Yeah, I messed that up too. Good evening, everybody. It's me, CPS Punisher here. I'm a few minutes late because, again, of technical difficulties that I faced. I've got 3 microphones sitting here in front of me, 1, 2, 3, all of which are giving me hell. But, you know, I found a way to get past that, and we are here today on a Friday night. It's going to be a good night. Tonight's going to be something special. We've got... I have to call him because he wasn't able to get in. But we got a gentleman here that not only did CPS take his children, his daughter from him, and he's been in a hard-fought battle for 4 years now, but he has also figured out a way to take on, I believe it was that he first went on and took the town seat, and then now he is running for the sheriff in this next election. People, I have to reiterate to you the importance of this next election. We need to put down the minute differences that we have, and everybody needs to focus on who is running for their offices in their towns, in their cities, their states, and obviously the national races. If they are not against CPS, you cannot vote for them. We need to get together as a group. I call it packing it up. We need to get together as a group and make sure that we solidify ourselves with our votes. On my website at ballerscps.com over this weekend, I'm going to put together an area in there where people can start putting in names of the politicians that they are supporting that are showing either no support for CPS or support against CPS. I know that Connie Reguli in Tennessee, I believe I saw some really cool stuff that she was doing on the floor in the Capitol there out in Tennessee with trying to refurbish some things against CPS. Like she's on it. She's on fire. It's too bad what they did to her for her good deeds, that they took her lawyer license away from her and forced her to hopefully she'll get it back so that she can be a judge, because we need women like her in there. But guys, this election is very, very important. You need to pay attention, because if we have to wait another 4 years to get into the war room and get on the ground here against CPS, it's going to be another 4 years of all of us waiting, of our kids that were taken now. They'll be 8 years old then, or 8 years older. We can't have that, guys. We've got a good run going right now. We've got a lot of people that are solid, and we just need to capitalize on this moment. Speaking of solid people, I got my good friend here, Melissa Hara. How are you, Melissa? She's there somewhere. She probably was wondering what the heck was going on here. Melissa is an advocate for anti-CPS. She's awesome. Melissa knows everything there is about everything. That's the truth.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here.
She's
My phone was acting a little wonky.
Yeah, imagine that everybody's stuff was acting wonky. I got 3 microphones here, Melissa. 3 of them that I couldn't. Herb, you are in the building. I am seeing your text, Herbert. You are in the building. Herbert was checking out our texts here. Don't forget, guys, that you can text us anytime you text, wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on X, whether you're on YouTube. And I believe that there's one more. We can see your text right here. So go ahead and make sure you text us if you have questions to ask. But what I was saying about you was, hey, Melissa, how are you? Melissa advocates for everything. Melissa, what do you got for new news for us this week?
Well, we're getting ready to start an advocacy training program. We've got a lady coming out of California who is a attorney. She's been a judge. She runs this big organization where she just goes around training people to be advocates and fight the system.
Melissa,
and we're gonna,
What is an advocate?
So, really, over and above helping walk people through the legal procedures, what to expect, what to encounter, teaching people to know your rights. It is also someone who is there for moral support when you're having just an absolute breakdown and you need someone to call and vent to. Over and above that, it's more or less just someone who's willing to help network, help fight, take numbers, take names, point people in the right direction.
Right.
It is a full you really pick up and do, but there's all kinds of funding available for it if you get certified.
Okay, good. So there is funding. So you can't make it your job if you wanted it to be your job. Because like you said, it is full time. I mean, once you start advocating, you get the satisfaction of helping a family and everything. It's pretty awesome feeling.
I mean, I go a little further than a lot of advocates because I write paperwork for people I deal with. Where, like, Cheryl, she has a couple attorneys that write work for her because she doesn't, she doesn't have the writing skills for it, On the other hand, I think I woke up last night about midnight. I wrote a motion to continue on an appeal for one person, and then I did a vacate, alter, and amend for another person who's getting ready to go to the appellate court. Because what I'm finding, no matter what district you look at, no matter what state you're in, the little district judge that is working with the families, working with the CPS, he's all about the monthly paycheck that he gets for supervising the case. And I've actually done a little digging into that and a little snooping. There's quite a bit of money that actually gets directly paid to the judge. Everyone thinks that, it's the department getting paid. Well, no, the GAL gets a check. The attorney for the department gets a check. But the judge gets a check about the size of both of the other two's check.
Yeah,
so he wants the case to drag out for a year.
Right, they're like $30,000-$40,000 in that range. Are they correct about that?
Yeah, I think it's like $2,500 a month. They get as a monthly supervisory fee to oversight the case.
So yeah, they don't want a lot of talk about that. They don't want people to know.
Right, and if families would come forward when the kids are very, very first removed, I'm finding more times than ever, that the department screws up on the initial removal. They either didn't have the grounds, they didn't follow the procedure, or they didn't do the affidavits, or they didn't have the court order to investigate. It's almost always one of the four, and it's probably the quickest way to stop the case before there's a contract.
All right. That's some good information right there. What do you mean by contract?
Okay, so when you enter into safety plans, you do the ISPs, you do all that stuff. After the emergency hearing, the department will hold like a family sit down team meeting to determine what your goals are going to be and, to kind of put you in your direction. Okay. So if before you do that family team meeting, you appeal that emergency order, and I was actually given this advice by, he's a really, really astute procedures attorney here in Alabama. He wrote a beautiful article on it. He says 9 out of every 10 families can beat the department if they attack it at the emergency hearing, because everything they're doing at the emergency hearing is all solely based on hearsay. And the appellate court don't want to hear hearsay. They want to hear laws.
But how apt are they to actually use the hearsay though? Because I know that's excuse me. I know that's the problem, is that we're running into a preponderance amount of evidence, hearsay, things like that. Now, when they go to the appeals court, you're right, they have to argue law, but they also have to argue only the laws that were violated in their trial, correct?
Well, so when you take a emergency hearing, a 72-hour hearing to the appellate court, it's not a standard appeal because it's not a final order. Okay, that is what is called a interlocutory appeal, or as I had always talked to you about, a writ of mandamus is one of the many of interlocutory appeals. And it's asking the court, asking the appellate court to intervene and correct some form of error in the judge's deciding. Like Charles Cliff, who you've had on your show a couple times.
Yeah.
They did not give him his 72-hour hearing in the appropriate timeline like they were supposed to. They continued it. The department acknowledged the kid was living with him, but the judge ignored it. The judge ignored the fact that the child was living with the parent and granted removal based on something irrelevant that didn't even apply. So we're arguing the 72-hour violation. We're arguing the violation of law because in his case, he's got a really unique standing right now because they're not actually arguing any neglect, harm, or abuse by the parents. The only thing against him is that his aunt passed away and she was a voluntary guardian. This was not a court-mandated guardianship. This was a voluntary guardianship. Okay? And at her death, because it was a voluntary, not a mandated, the rights revert back to him per their own statutes and case law. Okay? So if he wanted, let's for say the kid's out of control, he doesn't want to fight, he would have to walk in and sign off of his rights because the rights reverted to him, but yet the judge says that he did not have the right to keep his daughter. So which is it? Do you have the rights or don't you?
Right. Yeah, no, Charles, and he's got, that guy has a handful of kids, and the way that they're just destroying his family is disgusting. The racism that's playing a role in that is just absolutely horrid. And he needs to get in there and just pop these guys.
Well, honestly, the biggest problem he has, because I mean, you heard him speak. He's
Yep.
not a proper educated English. Okay. Now, thinks of as a hood rat drug dealing piece of crap and doesn't consider the fact that he's an upstanding truck driver. You know, was he bad as a
Right.
kid? Yeah, he was bad as a kid, but he's not that way now.
Right. And he paid his dues for everything that he was supposed to do. He was, he
Absolutely.
he did his jail time. He did what he was supposed to. So that should have never have been part of his situation. You know. But hey, on the phone here, Melissa, I got someone from your next to the neck of the woods. Jeff tried to sign in. His name is Jeff Glazier. I was just in the intro. I was trying to tell his story a little bit. His daughter was taken from him 4 years ago, and what he's done is he's actually taken steps to stand up for himself and his family. And he went in, and instead of fighting the town office, he became part of it. I believe he became one of the board of selectmen or one of those deals, and now he's actually running for sheriff in Michigan.
I think I've
He's
seen
actually
some
joining us now.
TikToks or YouTubes on him.
I think that you interviewed him with me in the past, maybe even
Yeah.
in our former life. But let's see if we can get. I'm going to try to get him in here so that we can hear him via the speakerphone. All right.
Well, and honestly, getting involved in your local politics, even if you're just going to the town hall meetings and you're making the town aware, because a lot of the politicians in a city are honestly the people who are grandparent age. You know, they're no longer active parents, they're grandparents, great grandparents, because most of the people in all the town hall stuff's in their 60s.
Right.
So I'm actually in the Republican Party for my county. And because all of the corruption in my county are all a really tight niche group of Democrats in my county.
Well, as long as they're anti-CPS. Hey, Jeff, you want to go ahead and say hello? See if we can hear you here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Melissa, can you hear Jeff?
Oh, yeah, I can hear him loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Jeff, you want to go ahead and just tell everybody a little bit about your story?
Well, back in December of 19, my stepdaughter, she wanted to go live with her biological father. Her mom said no. Her mom had full legal custody. But then the second in command over DHS decided to go ahead and just do it without no court order and without her mama's permission. And then the little girl got raped.
Oh, my gosh.
So once they figured out that she was raped, then they decided the best way to handle it would be to come kidnap my 8-year-old on her 8th birthday. For 9 months, they didn't bother us. The CPS report actually stated, you know, when they did their investigation stuff, that there was no physical abuse, no mental, no sexual, no leaving the child someplace unattended. But once she got raped by her biological dad, then they thought, well, the best way to make her keep her mouth shut is just come take her. So I had my little protest downtown. I couldn't get nobody to protest. Everybody's scared of them. Then I realized that we was in an election year, so in 22, all the politicians that refused to talk to me, I started trying to help people running fire them and take their job. Well, I did manage to help a state senator. So in 25, I'm going to be going to Lansing for a week or two, and me and Jonathan, we're going to sit down and start trying to work out some new bills, make some laws, make some rules they have to follow. One of the people I was trying to help, he told me, he goes, well, you seem to like to talk. You seem to be pretty good at it. He goes, so why don't you get your name on the ballot? So we need delegates. So I filled out the paperwork. I didn't think it would ever happen, but I actually got elected as a delegate. So I am actually a Cass County elected official, which is really a good thing, because when you become a delegate, you actually have a whole lot of power, and you get to know all your local politicians and phone numbers and emails. You get to know all your state and all your federal. You even get invited to the state and the federals when they have cookouts. They'll invite you to come to their house and have a cookout with them.
Do you get to vote? Do you get to, are you part of the Electoral College being a delegate?
Yeah, kind of. Well, we get to take the votes from here up to Lansing.
Okay.
And register those votes. And when I first got elected, this one guy, he was telling me, you know what we need delegates to go to Lansing to the national stuff and vote on, because like, say you got somebody running for governor, and they're not a bad person, but the person they got running as their mate, they ain't so good. You can act, if you get enough delegates together, you can say, you cannot run with this person. This person has to go. And you can actually make changes like that. If you don't like somebody, you get enough delegates together, you just kick them on out. So that's what we need. We need people to run for like delegates, for commissioners, in the schools, because you know the CPS people, they're not supposed to be able to go in and talk to our children by themselves.
Right.
So if we get people on school boards, we can have some power there to make that change too.
Right, because they're just sitting in those schools picking these kids off is almost like a menu for them. You know, now that they're in the schools, you know, all they need is a parent, because some parent or an adoptee trying to find a child to say, look, I'm looking for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed 6-year-old. CPS is right there in the school, ready to lock and load. They found their blue-eyed, you know, brown hair, or the blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. Off they go. The parents have some sort of call against them, and the system begins.
Yep, and you know, I've gone from the appellate court to Michigan Supreme Court, the Western District, which is Michigan's version of federal, and I went to Sixth Circuit. Sixth Circuit did not deny me on the merit. They just said, they gave me that Rocker-Feldman, which is the law of the land, which says that the lower federal court doesn't have the power to retry state court. So I figured out the way to blast through it, and I did really good.
Oh, nice.
I got actually accepted into the Supreme Court, but on the 20th, they ended up denying my petition and did not give a reason. But here's what I believe, and that lady that's from Michigan, write this name down. The man's name is James Anthony Henry. Matter of fact, everybody write it down.
I'll put it up on the board here too. Does James Anthony Henry?
James Anthony Henry.
Okay.
I have the transcripts where he admits he's been in Cass County 90 times. I have the transcripts where he admits he's been in 27 counties in Michigan. I have the transcripts where he admits he's been in 3 different states. The only problem with all that is the man has never had a license to be a therapist. He's never had a license to be a doctor. And I had the cease and desist order from Colorado. So Colorado's one of the 3 states. And I have the paperwork from Michigan Attorney General where they brought him up on charges. And so far is to say he's a fraud and he's corrupt because he's never had a license to be a doctor.
So what you're saying is CPS is using him to write reports out against children, and he's calling himself what he's not.
His main job is to help CPS take our children and put them up for adoption.
Yep.
And because I have the paperwork where he admits he's been here 90 times, the court and the prosecutors, as far as I understand the law, committed 90 felonies also. Now, for that person, every time he impersonates a doctor, is a felony up to 90 years. So, if you have an elected prosecutor and you have a high judge, because that's what these judges are to take our children.
Right.
They're called high judges. Allowing a person to impersonate a doctor. So, what should the felony be for them? If he could stand up to 15 years, should they get at least 20, 25 years?
Hey, I have a question for you. I have a question for you on that. Does he have a college degree for the field of which he's...
Let me put it like this. Yes, he has his PhD. But guess what? You can go get a PhD in mechanics. You can go get a PhD in art. You can go get a PhD on lawn care. Does that make you a doctor?
No, but I'm Michigan born and raised, and I was actually married to a doctor in Michigan. Michigan's got a really weird law about allowing a professional, even though their license may be lapsed, suspended, or revoked, he can still work as what they call a counseling professional. In other words, he can speak, he can give testimony, he can speak to his degree, but he should not be writing reports. That's absolutely illegal.
Here, you gotta understand what I'm saying. The man impersonated doctor. Treated patients. He diagnosed patients. That's what doctors do. He never had a license. If you want to be a therapist in Michigan, you got to have the minimum license, which is an LL. If you want to be a supervisor over somebody,
well, what's an LL?
that has
What's an LL, Jeff? Jeff, what's an LL?
a limited license.
Limited license? Okay.
Yeah, and you could usually verify them at the LAR website for the state of Michigan.
And he was hired by Western Michigan University. At first he was, he's just in there teaching these people how to be. He never even had a social worker's license either. So
Wow.
he's in here teaching people how to be therapists, and he's never even had a license to be a therapist. But that's not so much illegal. And he's the director over the CTAC, which is Child Trauma Center at Western Michigan University. So he can be the director. You don't need a license for that neither. But if you want to treat and diagnose people, you have to have a doctor's license. If you want to be the supervisor over a therapist who has the minimum, which is the LL license, limited license, you have to be fully licensed doctor. He's never been a licensed doctor. He's never had his license taken away, or he never forgot to pay for it. He never had it. He never even tried to get it.
Has anyone investigated his criminal record?
What?
Has anybody
Has anyone ever looked into whether he's had his record sealed? Because the only reason someone with a college degree that could be a licensed professional doesn't get licensed, but yet seeks all those other avenues, is because he's had a expunged felony at some point. Because once you've had a felony, even if you expunge it in the state of Michigan, they won't let you get a medical professional license.
I just texted you, so you should be able to read it because it's legal. It's from the state of Michigan. I believe one of them, the one that shows his gray bearded, gray haired face, I believe that one came out of Detroit. The other one, it says Kalamazoo. So that one I know is in the Kalamazoo newspaper.
Where
That
did you see
one
that,
plainly
Jeff?
states,
Okay, is it this right here? Is it this video?
no, it's not no video. It says,
Oh, okay, yep. Let me pull that up. I'll pull it up so everybody can see this guy here. Here.
it says, state cuts contact with Western Michigan University Child Trauma Center as it's learned was unlicensed.
Now, Herbert, you as the law enforcement guru here, what is it that can be done on the law enforcement side of people that are impersonating people in those professions?
That's fraudulent. Can be charged with forgery.
Okay. Is that what would it take for him to get charges pressed on him?
Now, somebody has to bring it to the attention of law enforcement that this individual is practicing without proper license. It's like a doctor. Let's say a cardiologist, like Melissa said before, let's say a cardiologist had their license pulled, but they're still practicing.
Okay.
I mean, that's a felon. That's a felony.
This man got brought up on charges by the Michigan Attorney General.
All right, there we go.
And all they did is charged him $2,500. And if you pull up the newspaper article, it'll tell you all about it. But the second page, the second thing I sent you, which was from Kalamazoo, it says that he's never had a social worker's license also.
Okay.
Now, he worked for CPS as a social worker. The first thing, whenever you have to go to court for anybody, for any reason, have your attorneys do a background check on the social workers,
Yeah.
on the therapists, on the doctors, and make sure, because they love, I guess, to use people that doesn't have a license. That's called fraud. That's also negligence on the court and the prosecutor's behalf. And it's deception, because the court and the prosecutor deceives everybody. Everybody thinks that this person is a doctor, or this person is a therapist, or this person is a licensed caseworker with a license, a licensed social worker. Plus, I'm trying to get my attorney to also check in because this caseworker, she will come to the house every now and then and demand a drug test.
Well, they shouldn't be doing drug tests at your house. That's for dang sure. That's not
And
sterile.
they have to be licensed.
Correct.
Now,
Yeah.
I have brought up how because I'm a retired truck driver.
Yeah. Another truck
I
driver.
took a whole lot of drug tests.
Yep.
And there's a certain way you got to do it. A certain way you got to do the paperwork.
Yep.
When you get
There's
there,
a chain of custody. There's all kinds of things.
that's right. And she refused to even let us put our names on the slobber stick. And when we had to put the piece of paper over the top, she didn't let us put the date or our names. Now that's a felony. If she's not licensed to do that, that's a felony for her to be drug testing us. And she did that at DHS one day. And when we were leaving, we watched her come out of DHS with our test. So the first thing I did, I called my attorney. I said, if you want to test me and Shauna right now, get us someplace. Because Tina just came out of DHS with our 2 test tubes. And they don't have no names on them. There was no chain of command whatsoever.
Chain of custody. Yep.
Could I ask this gentleman a question?
Of course. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My name's Herbert, and I have a question for you because you said you're a truck driver. If I were to purchase a Peterbilt cab, and I just want to drive it around town, I'm not doing anything but driving my Peterbilt. Do I have to have CPL license?
No, it's just a personal vehicle.
Very good.
You go
So if I purchase that vehicle,
3-foot-long RV with Class A air brakes, and you don't have any kind of license for it other than a driver's license. Same
Right.
thing with a truck. But
Okay.
I would say, if you go buy a semi, the first thing you're gonna want to do is pop that wheel off the back. That way you cannot.
let's try to stay to the subject. I know what you're trying to justify. I have a reason why I'm asking you this question. So I don't need a CPL license to drive my Peterbilt. And if I decide to buy a trailer, because I just want to buy that trailer, can I pull that trailer along the streets? It's my personal trailer and my personal.
Have signage on that truck saying that it is not for sale.
Okay, very good. But I'm still legal to drive the truck and the trailer, my personal truck and trailer, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just listen. Now, in CPS,
You're not hauling anything that you're getting paid for.
Sir, in CPS, you have people that are hired. They don't have to be social workers. But I think it has to do with what their position is and what they do would dictate that they have to be a social worker to do this and that, or they don't have to be a social worker. So everybody working for CPS doesn't have to be social workers or have a master's degree in social work or anything else like that. But I'm sure there are certain things, jobs that are performed by CPS that requires them to have a social work certification.
Yes. Any job that they do that they plan to bill for, they have to be licensed for it. And he's correct in saying that if they drug test you, they need to at least have some kind of certificate to do so, because that's the only way they can bill, because they bill through the Medicaid system. They bill as a medical professional. That's why your caseworker is supposed to have a social work license because every time she talks to you for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, she's actually billing Medicaid based on the amount of time she talks to you. What you talk about. When she does your home inspection, she bills Medicaid for it. Everything they do is medically billed, and under medical billing laws, she is required to be licensed for the job she's performing.
Right. So then we all will agree here that this man that Jeff's talking about is a sham, and he needs to be taken out.
Yes, he does.
Okay, that's James Anthony Henry.
James Anthony Henry, and he works at Western Michigan University.
Okay.
And if you pull up that from Kalamazoo or Detroit,
Yeah.
there's a spot in there that says since 1999 to today's date. Well, the date that they did the article, he has trained, I believe it said 250,000 social workers and therapists, and he has not really a clue what the hell he's doing.
He's not. He's ruining families, is what he's doing, and he's getting away with it because they're not going to lose their license.
Well, wait a minute. Let me understand something now. He could be adjunct. So here's my question. You said he's trained social workers, right? The people that want to be social workers in class.
He trains them.
Okay. Now here's my next question. You said that he has a PhD. Am I correct?
He does have a PhD.
What is his PhD in?
Social work. But
he has a PhD in social work, but he's not a social worker.
What's that?
He has a PhD in social work, but he's not a licensed social worker.
He's not a licensed what?
Social worker.
No, he's never had a license. That's what that article said. He hasn't had a social worker's license.
Yeah.
Okay, so he could teach. He could teach. He could teach as a person with a PhD social work subjects. He just can't practice.
Exactly, but
yes, but Herbert, that's what Jeff keeps saying is he's practicing. He is practicing on families. He is dividing families.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just saying, as far as teaching, he could do that. He could teach. He just can't practice.
Here's something really fucking horrible, and I'm sorry for cussing, and it will blow your mind. This social worker that we have, her name is Tina. I won't say her last name. But my stepdaughter, when her dad wanted her to come live with him, he told her to say that her mom pulled her around the house by her hair, cut her with a razor blade knife, burned her with a fire poker, beat her with the shovel, you clean out the wood stove with. I raped her in that, a neighbor guy raped her in that my cousin molested her. Well, me and the neighbor guy, we went down, we took a lie detector test in a hurry, and we passed it, no problem. Well, once she got raped by her biological dad, and it was proven, and then he admitted to it, then when we started fighting in court and I started catching that illegal shit, this caseworker went to James Henry and had him, as a so-called doctor, set my hero down and tell her that I molested her half-sister.
Jesus almighty.
Even though there was a 9-month investigation in gigantic ordeal, and the person who did the investigation for CPS all through the whole report, it says there's absolutely no preponderance of evidence to prove sexual abuse, mental, physical, and that fancy word for keeping a kid somewhere unattended.
Yep.
And this person sat my 8-year-old down and told her this shit.
Unbelievable. All right, hey guys, listen, Jeff, we've already reached our hour. Do you mind? We can't do Monday, but would you mind coming back Tuesday? Because we got a lot more to discuss with you about this story. Would you mind coming back for that?
If people want my phone number,
yes, go ahead, leave it up.
I will put it out there. It's 269
Yep.
357 6565. And the Supreme Court, I told them, I said, when I had to do all this paperwork, I didn't have enough money to make myself a copy. Can you send me back a copy? And I just got it back yesterday. And so I took it to the library and I had it scanned. So if anybody wants to see this stuff,
yes,
I will send it right on out. I want more people to see it. And then more people will understand what to do.
Hey, Jeff. One last thing you might want to check into. Lenawee County, Adrian, which I'm sure you know where Adrian is, because aren't you over near Benton Harbor?
Yeah, well, I'm east of Benton Harbor. I'm about 25 minutes east of there.
Okay. Well, I lived out in Lenawee County back in 2009. In 2005, they got a major lawsuit against the department for wrongful termination. And the doctor you're speaking of, or I should say the poser you're speaking of, was actually involved in some of that, because I remember the name. And they also had another issue to where they would tell parents, "Oh, you admit guilt to this, give us jurisdiction, we'll do X, Y, Z." And they don't even tell parents that in Michigan you could have a jury trial.
Oh, wow! All right, guys. So we have so much more. We have so much more that we're going to talk about, but we're going to have to bring it to Tuesday, guys, because we're at our hour point. So make sure that you come back here on Tuesday. And we'll get Jeff back here, and we're going to make sure we spend this whole hour on just Jeff, because there's a lot more to this story, Jeff, that you haven't even breached yet. You haven't even started to touch the iceberg yet in your story.
No,
so
not at all.
No, sir.
I've been doing this for 3.5 years, and on the 20th, February the 20th, finally, this judge, she's a new judge, she said to the GL still saying, "We need to terminate." She said, "No, we are not terminating. The only order I'm going to do is to send this child home."
That's awesome.
She wants to go home, and by next fall when school restarts, I want her back home.
That's so great. But let's save that.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yes, sir. Let's save that story, though, for Tuesday. Herb, do you have any last words?
No. I'd like to hear more what Jeff has to say on Tuesday.
All right. Melissa,
give me a call, and I'll tell you whatever you want to.
That's right.
Want to know.
No, you're saving it for our show on Tuesday, Jeff. Melissa, do you have any other things you want to ask Jeff before we get out of here? Melissa? Oh, I guess Melissa didn't want to say anything more to Jeff. All right, guys. All right, Jeff, thanks for being on.
If you have a way to do Zoom,
yeah, we'll get you.
I know my phone will work Zoom.
All right, we'll figure it out. I'll get you in here, Jeff. So we'll talk to you on Tuesday, my man. I'll get in touch with you before then, okay?
Okay.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much.
All right, man. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Yep.
All right, guys, that's Jeff's story. We're going to get a lot more of him on Tuesday because he hasn't even breached him running for sheriff yet. He hasn't touched about his office. He hasn't even touched the story about his kid and what's going on with that. This guy has crazy story. But you know what? The time's up, and you know what? It's the weekend, right? So it's time that we all relax, kick it back a little bit, be safe, be vigilant about what we're doing. Make sure that you help everybody else around you. Make sure you pay attention to those things. And God forbid, keep CPS out of your face. CPS watershed. I'm going to try to get out of here. Maybe. Oh.
Mommy's right here. I got you, baby. I'm not recording him. I'm recording my daughter because this is going to court. I love you, baby.
Greetings world. We are anonymous. Families are being destroyed. Children are being emotionally torn apart. in the United States. This all began when President Bill Clinton signed the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. Since then, taking children from their loving parents has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Children are now seen as walking, breathing bags of money for corrupt state governments all over the United States. The US government incentivizes the kidnapping of children by providing lump sums of cash from federal funding to the states.
Going to CPS, trying to work everything out with them, thinking my son might be adopted.
Our children are the most precious people in our lives. We must protect them. In many cases, children are taken from their loving parents for the smallest of reasons, such as eating too much fruit or smoking a joint in their own home. Child Protective Services, CPS, has all been known for massive corruption, the falsifying of documents, statements, and the list goes on.
Now, state police issued an Amber Alert for the pair on Monday after she failed to turn her son over to CYFD. On Tuesday, Bryant went on Facebook claiming she's the victim of CPS corruption.
This is a legal, human trafficking mafia with unlimited power and absolutely no accountability.
You want to juice, Mama? You want to take your juice? You want to drink a little bit right now? Let her hold her since she seems to be kind of the calmest right now. Okay.
This is a call to all, remove your fear, and put on your masks. Find all of the CPS groups on social media platforms, get involved, do extensive research. Arm yourself with information. If you live in fear of the CPS mafia, then remove your fear, join with others and fight back. We will push to change the system, as long as the CPS uses corrupted methods to destroy our lives.
The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire, built on taking children and separating families.
This is Nancy Schaefer. She gave up her career, and later her life, for the fight against CPS. The details of her murder are very suspicious, and many believe that she was murdered by the CPS for her heroic deeds. Please research her.
This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability. There is no accountability. There is no accountability in Child Protective Services.
CPS is well known for massive corruption and criminal acts.
Assault, burglary, DWI, theft, domestic violence, indecent exposure, prostitution, possession of cocaine and marijuana, and selling alcohol to minors. What do all of these crimes have in common? They are just some of the crimes committed by people who work for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. That's right, the agency in charge of protecting Texas children. We found more than 370 employees have a criminal background. Some have direct contact with foster kids. David Mendoza pled guilty to assault with bodily injury to a family member and violating a protective order. He's a CPS supervisor in El Paso. Richard Landon was arrested for indecent exposure in 1997, and in 1994 he was arrested for prostitution after soliciting an undercover cop. He also works for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Look at that baby. Look how beautiful that baby is. They'll get hundreds of thousands of federal funds, especially if they put it on a couple psychotropic drugs, and then they'll adopt it out to somebody.
We call all to join together and stop this mafia. Child Protective Services, also known as CPS. CPS custody is one of the most dangerous places for a child. Many children are abused and sometimes even killed.
If somebody hurts my son, I'm filing a lawsuit. Help! 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 Help!
CPS, Child Protective Services, we are waking up to your corruption involved with children, and we will expose you. We are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, and we never forget. CPS, expect us.